Hello guys and welcome to another prediction. This time I will talk about Thor Ragnarok, which will be released in over a year on November 3rd, 2017. Of course, this prediction is based on just a few facts which are already out there. I'm aware of the fact that everything which has to do with Thor, the Marvel Cinematic Universe or comic book movies in general can change very drastically over the next 16 to 17 months, but I will do my best to give some very early predictions on the movie. As always, let's start with the positive points for Thor Ragnarok. The first thing I want to point out is the cast. We have seen how big of an effect a more expanded cast can have when the added actors are also well known from roles out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Civil War performed that good because it had a bunch of Avengers superheroes in it, almost like a Avengers 2.5. So far, Thor always had Chris Hemsworth as Thor in it, and the figures who were always present in combination with this comic book hero, like Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Anthony Hopkins as Odin, and Natalie Portman as Jane Foster. While Thor Ragnarok is not as blessed like Civil War is when it comes to actors, the addition of Mark Ruffalo as Hulk in the movie, and on top of that the casting of Cate Blanchett and Jeff Goldblum, will help the movie's performance enormously and is something that has not been done in the original Thor or the sequel Thor: The Dark Kingdom. The next positive factor is the Avengers Universe brand as a whole. Right now, the Avengers Cinematic Universe is untouchable and far away from declining. While there are still some people out there who claim that superhero fatigue has set in, to say something like that after Civil War grossed $1.131 billion in the first 31 days is kind of nonsense. Civil War was the best reviewed and probably also most loved installment out of the 8-year-old Marvel Cinematic Universe. And every single movie which is now following after Civil War will benefit from its quality and performance. There are 3 Avengers Universe movies to be released before Thor Ragnarok hits screens. Doctor Strange at the end of this year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 will hit cinemas on the same weekend that Civil War was released just 1 year later in 2017, and on July 7th of 2017 we will see Spider-Man Homecoming, the first Spider-Man standalone movie which is based on the Spider-Man which we first saw in Civil War. While it's of course possible that Disney fails to hold the great financial situation they are now in with their movies, over the last 8 years Disney has shown that it's far more likely that they will deliver again and again and again with their movies at the box office. We already predicted Doctor Strange to maybe break Guardians of the Galaxy's origin records when everything falls into perfect place. And when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 then comes close to the quality of its predecessor, we could see maybe the $5 billion plus movie out of the Avengers Cinematic Universe, behind Avengers, Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3 and Civil War. For Thor Ragnarok to follow after these 3 movies is something Disney can really smile about. The next thing I want to point out is the time span which has passed between Thor: The Dark Kingdom and Thor Ragnarok. I know that I have pointed out multiple times in the past that a time span of 4 years between a movie and its sequel is always something which affects the box office of the sequel in a negative way. At least it happened like that multiple times in the past. For Thor Ragnarok, I actually think it is something the movie can be happy about. Disney is making not a lot of mistakes with their Marvel movies, but nearly everybody agreed that Thor: The Dark Kingdom was way off when it comes to the overall quality standards of the Disney Marvel movies. The movie received bad reviews from critics around the globe and most people were really not so hyped about this movie. Of course, it did the movie quite good business, but that was because of the bump that the Avengers gave the next movies after its release in 2012. Just look at the more gross money of Thor: The Dark Kingdom and its predecessor, and now look at Captain America: The Winter Soldier and its predecessor. It should be clearly to everyone that there could have been much more power in the box office performance of Thor: The Dark Kingdom, but due to the mediocre quality and the overall disinterest in the movie was grossing less than expected. Disney reacted fast. They pushed Thor Ragnarok way behind the next installment of Captain America, and the good Avengers Universe movies which got released after Thor: The Dark Kingdom kind of managed that people forgot about the disappointment that The Dark Kingdom was. In my opinion, Thor Ragnarok has now a better chance to gross lots of money than if it would have been released before Civil War. Of course, when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 or Spider-Man disappoint, all of that can change for the bad, but like I said before, it's far more likely that Disney will nail the quality on those two movies. After these 3 points, I'm actually at the end of my list for the positive points, and I will now continue with the negative factors. The first and most small factor is Chris Hemsworth himself. His box office reputation is really at its lowest after The Huntsman Winter's War, and he has shown to be a box office fail a lot of times except in the Thor franchise. Because of that, this is the most small factor to consider. I think Chris Hemsworth would need way more box office fails in his list, so it would actually pull down the box office performance of a Thor movie. But while it's the smallest point, we still need to consider it. The next thing I want to point out is the exact release timing. The release date of November 3rd for Thor Ragnarok is probably the worst which could happen to the movie. While it's not sure yet which movies exactly will be released on the same weekend or the next one, it's already set that DC's Justice League Part 1 will be released just 2 weeks after the premiere of Ragnarok. Now, 2 situations could become reality. After the very bad performance of Batman v Superman and the huge letdown most people experienced with the movie overall, the DC universe is not looking good at all. Right now, the signs for it are actually horrible. But I already said that in the prediction on Assassin's Creed. The Marvel universe needs the DC universe to perform great at the box office. When they do not, it will affect also the Marvel movies in a bad way. Comic book movies overall will be affected by it. So when DC is continuing their way when it comes to the quality of the movie over the next 1.5 years, the universe will actually affect Thor Ragnarok in a bad way. The other situation is that Warner Bros. Will actually turn the ship around with the Wonder Woman movie, which will be released in June of 2017. Fans are strange. They're pissed so insanely fast, but when there is another great movie of their favorite thing, they also forgive very fast. When Wonder Woman matches the quality of Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, the Justice League could become a 1 billion box office grosser, and with that it will hurt Thor Ragnarok also big time. So however you turn the situation around, Ragnarok will be affected by the DC franchise heavily and not in a good way. The last thing I want to point out is the overall quality of the movie. I know that it's kind of weird to name this point, since every movie has a chance to be great and a chance to be bad. But with Thor Ragnarok, I have a certain feeling that I can't explain. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, Marvel never managed to get Thor done the right way. While the original Thor from 2011 was not as bad received as its sequel was, the movie was still far from great when it comes to reviews and audience reactions. The sequel was then even more worse, so yeah, the chance that Disney will actually not deliver with the third Thor installment is pretty damn high. Alright guys, as always, I will now fade in all aspects I just counted who work in favor or not in favor for the box office performance of Thor Ragnarok, and I will start now with the pessimistic prediction on the third Thor installment. Let's assume for a quick moment that everything fails with Thor Ragnarok. The movie is not good, the DC franchise hurts the movie on a huge level, and the 2 Avengers Universe movies before Thor Ragnarok are actually disappointments. While it's impossible that this movie will be a financial failure for Disney, the gross will be far away from great in this scenario. I predict an opening weekend of around $75 million between the opening weekend of the first Thor and the second one. With a multiplier of 2.6, the movie will reach a domestic total of $195 million. Additional to that, Thor Ragnarok will gross $400 million in overseas markets, for a combined worldwide total of $595 million. With this gross, Thor Ragnarok would land around $50 million behind its predecessor Thor the Dark Kingdom and around $145 million ahead of the first Thor. With an estimated budget of $185 million and a few more dollars spent on marketing on top of that, this would be just enough to break even with its overall costs, and maybe a bit of earnings would come in with Blu-ray and DVD sales. But since this will be the third installment of a huge franchise from the current champion Marvel, Disney must consider this outcome a huge disappointment. Now let's move on to the realistic prediction. When Thor Ragnarok is on the same level of the first Thor, Marvel does not fuck up Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 or Spider-Man Homecoming, and Chris Hemsworth does not affect the movie, The signs are already better. In this scenario, I see an opening weekend of $95 million, on one level with The Winter Soldier. Because of the better quality, the movie will experience a better run over the long distance and will finish with $260 million and the multiplier of around 2.75, also very comparable to The Winter Soldier. Additional to that, Ragnarok will perform a bit better overseas with something like $490 million, which will lead the movie to $750 million in total. While still not great, this outcome would make Disney probably pretty happy. The movie would earn quite an amount of money with its cinematic run, and the home entertainment sales after that would also be 100% pure win for the creators. Now to the optimistic prediction. When everything, and I mean everything, falls into perfect place, Thor Ragnarok could become a 900 million plus grosser. In this scenario, I see an opening weekend of around $100 million, which will lead the movie after a 2.95 multiplier to a domestic total of $295 million. On the overseas front, the God of Thunder will rise and shine and earn an impressive $605 million. Combined, this would put Thor Ragnarok at 900 million worldwide, and with that on the 5th place in the Avengers Universe list, behind the Avengers, Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3 and Civil War. Of course, there is a lot of room between the pre-predictions, and a lot of outcomes between those numbers I just predicted could become reality when something between those three scenarios happens. Just keep that in mind. The next video will be an analysis on Furious 7 or a prediction on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 or Jason Bourne. I really hope you liked this video, guys. It was tons of work. Let me know in the comments what is the most fitting scenario in your opinion, and also don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel when you want to. The left video will lead you to an analysis on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the bottom one will show you the possible outcome on Doctor Strange, and the right video will send you to a prediction on Star Trek Beyond. See you soon, bye bye.